Hello friends, this is from Microbiology Classroom Chambers and today we will discuss an important bacteria, Bordetella. Let us write first Bordetella. Let us first learn how to write a spelling. I myself don't know how to write. Let me write like this guys. Remain chill, take a deep breath. We are ending bacteriology. Bordetella. Pertussis. 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 First we should know that. Don't confuse this with Bartonella. Okay, don't confuse this with Bartonella. These are two bacteria. One is Bordetella, one is Bartonella. Okay, this this organism is responsible for a disease called as called as pertussis. It causes pertussis. What is pertussis? You can bring a slash. Whooping cough. Whooping cough. Okay, whooping cough. Okay, whooping cough by but see, I was also able to mistake. I was going to mistake it with Bartonella. So it should be Bordetella pertussis. Bordetella pertussis causing whooping cough, or pertussis. Okay. So basically, this is also, by the way, known as 100-day cough. 100-day cough. Would you like to drink some tea? Okay, let me have a sip of tea. Okay, 100-day cough. Now this 100-day cough, we have to see its phases. We have to see its phases. Now people are saying, how can we come, isn't it? They were thinking how you can come through this online mode. I can order for you, okay, if that service is working. So this is pertussis whooping cough. First you have to understand it is called whooping cough, 100-day cough, pertussis. All are the same meaning. Basically there were two scientists. That is Bordet and Gengu. Okay. There were two scientists, let me name them. There were two scientists, microbiologists, scientists, whatever you call. Their name was Bordet and Gango. What they saw that some children presented to them. They saw the children. They studied the children pathogenesis. They saw the children were having some violent paroxysms. Can we understand paroxysms? Can we understand paroxysms? You know, which is not consistent, which is not happening like can we understand now? So this is how that patient. I'm going now breathlessness. Okay. So violent paroxysms. Yeah, we have to become actors when we are teaching medicine to make a clear distinction of everything. Paroxysms. Okay, coming to the paroxysm. We enjoy more in the medicine, isn't it? Because we have to do. When I teach neurology, what I do, I become everything. I become limp. I become one hand paralyzed. I do all the features which a person can present. That's how I enjoy reading everything. And that's actually people shooting me out there, recording that, but I don't want them to record. But yeah, that's a perfect acting what I can, because uh, that is the thing you will be seeing in the patient. That's how you can treat that patient. Now these violent paroxysms, they saw the patients presented to us with productive cough. They presented us with productive cough. In which population? Children. In which population? Children. Okay. and they called this cough as whooping cough, like I did it in the beginning. Okay, so whooping cough, or also called it 100 days cough. Now this Bordetella is having some virulence factors. This Bordetella is having some virulence factors. And the disease, this whooping cough disease, is having some stages. This whooping cough disease is having some stages. So there is a stage of, let me say, there are three stages. Remember like this, there are three stages for this, three stages. Okay, let me draw the stages. So first stage is called catarrhal stage. Cattarrhal. Second stage is paroxysmal stage. Paroxysmal stage. By the way, it's raining. Rain has started. So convalescent stage. So we have catarrhal stage, we have paroxysmal stage, we have convalescent stage. We have convalescent stage. Okay. This is just an introduction of this scope. I will be writing some points about it in detail. First, let us see what virulence factors this bacteria is having. It is having, uh, let us write like this, it is having PT toxin. It has some toxins. Let us go into the virulence factors. Virulence factors. It has some virulence factors. One is PT. What is PT? Not prothrombin, please. It is called pertussis toxin. Pertussis toxin. Okay, and this is the characteristic toxin which is only shown by from the Bordetella, this pertussis. It's only from this Bordetella pertussis will show this. And remember PT is equal to camp. Like in the Vibrio cholerae we have camp toxin, same we have this. So the camp the way the cholera toxin is increasing the cyclic AMP and leading to that watery stool diarrhea, the same way this pertussis toxin is using. Okay, so it is equal to the camp. It is equal to the camp. Okay, so what camp means? If you give a PT, it will increase the camp. It will increase the camp, like the cholera toxin is doing. What other toxins it has? It has tracheal cytotoxin. Tracheal cytotoxin. It has dermonecrotic toxin. Dermonecrotic toxin. Necrotic toxin. It has adenylyl cyclase toxin. Adenylyl cyclase toxin. And it also has some endotoxins. This is how you have to write. Okay. Now, which structures in the, this is sixth. Now, which structures it uses for adhesion? So which factors it has for adhesion? How, you have to attach the bacteria to that region where it wants to infect. So what things should this bacteria have so that it can attach to that point? So you have number A, you have FHA. What is FHA? FHA is filamentous heme agglutinin. Filamentous, filamentous, filamentous heme agglutinin. Agglutinin. This is called FHA. Okay, FHA. Filamentous heme agglutinin. Fine. Second, it is having pertectin. It has pertectin. Pertectin is basically, where is it present? It is an outer membrane protein. It's an outer membrane protein. Number C, it has fimbri. I hope you know fimbri. I hope you know pili. I hope you know agglutinogens. Agglutinogens. So these are all the factors which will help in the adhesion. Which will help in the adhesion. Are we clear, friends? So these all factors will help us in adhesion. Are we clear, friends? There is, I think it's not a difficult bacteria, so easy. Okay. See, you would be thinking, sir, why you did not taught us vaccines? Basically, I want to make a nice video so that I can teach you in detail the vaccines, so that you can remember the year, you can remember the preparation. So I will make a full video on vaccines. In that way, I have seen I can retain more information. So that way it becomes easy for me, I will make the thing easy for you. That's what the purpose is. Okay, so if I start giving you vaccines also, I am also describing some names about those vaccines, but I want to teach you also the cold chain, how we preserve the vaccines, at what temperature in the refrigerator, at which shelf. There are shelves in the refrigerator where we are storing, that is called cold chain. So that is actually a big topic which I want you to get very much well versed, so that you can, even in any community center you are posted, you can definitely, at least closing your eyes, you can tell it is a BCG vaccine. Go to the shelf number third, go to the shelf number four. This is how we doctors are literate. We are literate about these things. We know these things. Okay, at what temperature will this change? And I will show you the indicator when the temperature increases, how that indicator changes. So I want you to very nicely understand that topic. That's why I am keeping that a separate big video. That will be a series of video, at least 5 or 6 hours, so that you can understand it clearly. How measles, why measles vaccine is given till 5 years, can be given the mistos, why OPV can be given for 5 years, why DPT can be given for 7 years, Japanese encephalitis 15 years, hepatitis B 1 year, IPV 1 year, pentavalent 1 year, Rota 1 year, BCG 1 year, isn't it? Or tetanus toxoid, TT. By the way, TT has been recently added in the immunization schedule. Remember, for the pregnant women. Okay. So let us come back. So this adhesion, filamentous, is, these things are being used to attach to that surface where it wants to get attached and infect. Now I want to tell you, I want to tell which culture media we use. We use, first I should say the disease. Why to directly land in the culture media? I should say you first the clinical features. So the clinical features are, since it has 3 stages. So the incubation period is first 7 to 10 days. Incubation period is 7 to 10 days. Let us take the phases. There are 3 phases of whooping cough. 3 phases. Important. It's your MBBS question. Okay. You will be asking in the microbiology. It's also an MBBS question in the medical colleges that they ask. Okay. And also in the Viva. 3 phases. Catral phase, which we already wrote. Then we have what phase? Paroxysmal phase. You should speak with me so that you can remember it only in class here only. Okay. Try to learn it with me. It becomes easy for you at home to revise. Okay. Convalescent stage. Convalescent stage. Catral phase. See what happens in the catral phase. Catral phase, it lasts for 1 to 2 weeks. Catral phase lasts for 1 to 2 weeks. Okay. Paroxysmal phase. Paroxysmal phase, I will be writing first. Let us say catral phase. Catral phase lasts for 1 to 2 weeks. What are the symptoms of catral phase? There are non-specific symptoms, like non-specific symptoms like common cold. Symptoms like common cold. So you will be thinking, yeah, it's like a common cold. Okay. But do you know this stage is a highly infectious stage? Highly infectious stage. Okay. And if you take a culture, if you take the culture in this stage, you will get a positive culture. So culture will be positive. Culture positive. Talking about the paroxysmal phase. Paroxysmal phase is having specific symptoms. It's having specific symptoms. What are the specific symptoms? Whooping cough, Okay. So it's whooping. Okay. And after the person has coughed, the person will have what? After the person coughs, when the coughing finishes, he will have vomiting. That is called post-tussive vomiting. Post-tussive vomiting. Post-tussive vomiting. Okay. If you tell sir, is it highly infectious stage? No, it's comparatively less infectious. Less infectious. And what will be the culture? Culture here is positive, here it will be negative. Right, like this way, so that you can learn it. Okay. Fine. Convalescent stage. Convalescent stage means what is convalescent? Convalescent means when you are recovering. That is the period of convalescence. So convalescence is when you are recovering from a disease. So that means will you have antibodies against the pertussis or not? If you are recovering, that means will you have antibody titer high in the serum? Yes. So antibodies will appear in the serum. Antibodies in serum. And the severity of the disease will decrease in the severity. Now I will tell you, there are so many diseases which can mimic. Do you know mimic? Which can mimic like whooping cough. So what are the differential diagnoses? Let me write it the chart here for you. Make a line here on the copy and see what are the DD. What is DD? Differential diagnosis. Okay. Once you see this whooping cough, what comes into your mind? What it can be? It can be also a symptom of Mycoplasma pneumoniae. Mycoplasma pneumoniae. Mycoplasma pneumoniae. Second, they will ask you this. Chlamydophila pneumoniae. Chlamydophila pneumoniae. Chlamydophila pneumoniae. Number 3, adenovirus infection. Adenovirus infection we will be learning in virology. Then influenza. Influenza. Okay. Respiratory viruses. Respiratory viruses. Number 6, we in pharmacology have drugs called angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. Captopril, lisinopril. Okay. Prils, all the prils. We have prils. Okay. Starting with prils. Captopril, lisinopril. There is a side effect with these ACE inhibitors. What is the side effect? Cough. That's why when the patient develops that cough with the use of those drugs, what will happen? We will be changing the drug to angiotensin receptor blocker. Angiotensin receptor blocker. Okay. So if you are giving a patient ACE inhibitor, what is ACE inhibitor? Angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. Okay. Basically, it is that bradykinin pathway which you will be learning in pharmacology. And I have taught you basically in that RBC. Okay. Clotting cascade. Go to that video. I have discussed in detail there. So angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. Inhibitor means X. Okay. I write mostly inhibitor with X. Don't get confused. So this will be behaving like that. 7th will be GERD. What is GERD? Gastroesophageal reflux. So you have reflux of food contents in the esophagus. I will be teaching you in gastroenterology. This gastric physiology also. Okay. So gastroesophageal reflux disease. This is called GERD. Gastroesophageal reflux disease. Okay. Is it visible to you guys? Okay. Then it's fine. So these are some examples which can mimic, which can be a differential diagnosis for your Whooping cough. Whooping cough. Fine. So, which were the two scientists who actually found this disease? Baudet and Gengu. So, should we give the media the name in their, should we call their, should we give them as a respect the name also of the media? So the media, the culture media which we are using is Baudet Gangu media. Baudet Gangu media. Okay. So let us come to the by the way, what is the mode of transmission? I did not tell that. What is the mode of transmission? Let us take that. What is the mode of transmission of this disease? The mode of transmission is droplet inhalation. Aerosols, very nice. So droplet inhalation. Okay. Sir, is there anything with direct contact? Rare direct contact, you can say. Okay. But remember, which stage will be the person infecting with? Out of these three stages, you will tell me which stage will start the infection. Once I contact, which stage will start the infection? You should write the name of the stage. I don't know what is 3, 2, 1. Should write so that you remember. Ketral stage. That's a beautiful. So the person who contacts the main source of the disease will be the Ketral stage. That is the early case. That means, did you see any carrier state in this? Did you see any carrier state? Did you see any animal reservoir? No. No carrier state? No. So it is directly a human disease. Exclusively human disease, guys. Exclusively human disease. Human disease. I think I have signed it, isn't it? I should write clearly, otherwise people will start beating me, isn't it? People get angry. Exclusively human disease. Again, a signature, okay? It's my signature, by the way, like this. So this is now, you know, I want to say like this. How will you take the specimen? So what should be the specimen? If it is an infection of your respiratory tract, so should the nasopharyngeal aspirate be the best? What is the best specimen? Nasopharyngeal secretion. Aspire, use a swab, use a per nasal swab. Let me write. So best is the nasopharyngeal secretion. So let us go to lab diagnosis, guys. Lab diagnosis. So in the lab diagnosis, um, I should first write the specimen. So the specimen, the best will be nasopharyngeal secretions. Nasopharyngeal secretions. Okay. How will you get these secretions? So we will be taking the nasopharyngeal secretion. Okay. So some people sending very nice emojis, making me laugh, but we have to study. Okay. And we will do in enjoyment in the end. First study and then enjoy the life. Yeah. Enjoyment also is happening. Don't worry. So nasopharyngeal secretion, how we will get, do you know that we were doing in the bronchoscopic lavage, we were doing a bronchoalveolar lavage, we were doing the bronchoscope, we were putting it in the bronchus and getting the secretions. And because we were getting the bronchial secretions. Now I am telling you, I want nasopharyngeal secretion. So I will be doing nasopharyngeal aspiration. Or you can use swabs also. So we will be doing nasopharyngeal aspiration. Nasopharyngeal aspiration. Or you can also go for per nasal swab. Per nasal per nasal swab, like this, per nasal swab. Okay. Now we have, which swabs will be used? No, we have various types of swabs. It can be an alginate swab. Okay, let us give you here a correlation. We have alginate swab. Right now in the coronaviruses, you are using that swabs, isn't it? So this is I'm talking just about alginate swabs. Then we also have Dacron, made up of Dacron swab. We can have rayon swab. These are the types of swabs you can use. But remember, if you want to do a PCR, remember, for culture, which swab to use, if you have to take that thing to the culture, which swab to use, you have to take this alginate swab. And if you don't have alginate swab, alginate is the best. Alginate is the best. If you don't have alginate, then you will go for Dacron. Understand the fact what I am telling you. Alginate will be used more preferred than the Dacron swab. But if you want to go for PCR, it is recommended that you follow rayon swab. It is recommended for rayon. Rayon is recommended for PCR. So remember PCR for rayon. So R for PCR. R for PCR. Can we understand this fact? So R for PCR. If you want to in future go for a PCR, that you want to do a PCR, collect it from the Dacron, or you can also use rayon. Okay, you can also use rayon. Don't worry. You can also use rayon, but not alginate. But not alginate. So if you want to go for culture, you will be using alginate swabs. Then if you don't have, you can take another. Next one is Dacron. But for PCR, you can't use alginate. You will take Dacron. They are not recommending this. Okay. When you have recommendation, that means you should follow that recommendation. Okay. So in the culture, what you will be using, what? Nasopharyngeal aspirate culture. You will be taking this and then you will be putting this aspiration in culture. That is the gold standard basically. That is the gold standard to do. Okay. And what is the media you are using? What is the media you are using, guys? What is the media you are using? So culture media is, the culture media is, guys, Bordet Gangu media. Very nice. Very nice. Bordet Gangu media. Bordet Gangu media. What you will get, let me make a pearl for you. Let me make a pearl for you. You will get a bisected pearl appearance. Bisected. Bisected pearl appearance. Bisected pearl appearance. Okay. And for, you can also go for culture method. You can go for PCR. You can go for PCR, guys. PCR. You can go for PCR also. Okay. Easy. We are ending. We are coming to the end. Okay. Don't worry. So you are seeing these metachromatic rhymes. Okay. So they will say, what do you see in the culture smear? What do you see in the culture smear? This is the colonies which will be seeing. Bisected pearl appearance is a colonies. We're seeing these colonies. Okay. Colonies. But I will ask you, what do you see in the culture smear? In the culture smear, you see a thumbprint appearance. So culture smear, you see a thumbprint appearance. Can we make a thumbprint? So thumbprint appearance. Okay. Is it clear? So how to treat this infection? The drug of choice will be macrolides. Drug of choice will be macrolides. Let us write, drug of choice is macrolides. For treatment, the drug of choice will be macrolide. But you tell me one thing. Let us come to a conceptual thing. You will be using these macrolides to destroy the bacteria. That means whatever bacteria is present in the nasopharynx will be destroyed by antibiotics. Do you think you can destroy the toxin? If there is already a toxin has been mediated, there is a toxin mediated pertussis. If there is a toxin mediated pertussis, no, exactly. So it can't, it's less useful. Okay, it's less useful. So these are the drug of choice. And what is the macrolide? Which macrolide will you give, by the way? Erythromycin. Erythromycin, not azithromycin. Erythromycin. Okay, erythromycin. So how much time? 7 to 14 days. 7 to 14 days. Okay. But if the patient is resistant to macrolide, which drug to give? Resistance to macrolide. But you will give cotrimoxazole. Let me write like this. Cotrimoxazole. Cotrimoxazole. Okay. Fine. And the vaccine which we use, that vaccine is called whole cell pertussis vaccine or acellular vaccine. So we have vaccine too. I will be teaching you vaccine separately, but just remember this. So vaccines for this, we have whole cell pertussis, vaccine, and we have acellular pertussis vaccine. Acellular pertussis vaccine. Okay. So what is the difference? We are using which vaccine we are using now? We are using acellular. Why? Because it has efficacy equal to whole cell. Okay. It has efficacy equal to whole cell. Okay. We are using this. Okay. So they will ask you what is the acellular vaccine made up of. So this is the question they will ask you. So acellular vaccine is made up of number 1, pertussis toxoid plus fimbrial heme agglutinin plus pertactin plus PFPA. Okay, PFPA. So we have PFPA. So A is agglutinogens 1, 2, 3. Agglutinogens 1, 2, 3. Agglutinogens 1, 2, 3. This is what is contained in the acellular pertussis, which we are using now. Okay. And so it is having more bacterial components. Okay, it is having other 2 bacterial components. One is first is a pertussis toxoid, and we have greater than 2, isn't it? We have greater than 2 bacterial components. Okay, why we are using, sir, acellular? Because efficacy and lesser side effects. What was the side effect? What was the side effect with the vaccine? Whole cell. Whole cell was causing injection pain site. You know, where when we used to inject it, it was causing pain at that site. It was causing swelling. It was causing neurological. No, there was also a rare complication which was seen in the whole cell. It was hypotonic hyporesponsive syndrome in the neurology. It was causing hypotonic hyporesponsive syndrome. Hypotonic hyporesponsive syndrome. Okay. And it was contraindicated in patients of epilepsy who had a family history of epilepsy, who were previously hypersensitive to those things. So we were not giving in that. Okay. And you can safely give it. And you know, the problem with the people was it was contraindicated. This whole cell pertussis was contraindicated with children who were greater than 5 to 6 years of age. It was contraindicated. But acellular, you can use it in children 5 to 6 years. After 5 to 6 years, you can safely give it. Okay. So what is the variant we are using? So that is what I was asking you. So I was telling you what components we have. We have TADAP and we have let me write like this. So remember, if they ask you how to prevent pertussis, so remember two components, T, D, A, P. I will be discussing in detail in the vaccines. Okay, that's why I'm not describing it. It will take another long video. Okay, so TDAP and DTAP. Okay, these vaccines can be used to prevent what? Pertussis. Okay, so I hope you have understood. Okay, so this where they will ask you, where do you see an inspiratory whoop? In which stage? In which stage you see inspiratory whoop? Inspiratory whoop. Beautiful answer. So you see inspiratory whoop. Please write inspiratory whoop is seen in paroxysmal stage. Inspiratory. I demonstrated also. I demonstrated it to you also. I hope you won't forget it. So inspiratory whoop is seen in, where is the post-tussive vomiting scene? It is seen in the paroxysmal stage. It's seen in the paroxysmal stage. Okay. Is there any doubt? So if they ask you what about fever, you will be seeing some low grade fever here. There will be a low grade fever here. And this is also called coryza. You will see coryza. Okay. C for coryza, C for Ketral. This is how you remember. Okay. So whoop is paroxysmal. Whooping is paroxysmal. Okay. Okay. I hope you have enjoyed this topic. Please have a look from the book. Have a reading from the book also, so that you can understand better. So I have tried to write everything you need for your exams and for your entrance exam. So hope you enjoyed. So see you with next topic in the next class. Take care and bye bye.